Hello, everyone. I'm Donna Fiducia.
And I'm Don Neuen. And this is Cowboy Logic Radio.
Cowboys didn't dance, didn't wear designer shirts. When their hearts were filled with memories, their bodies filled with hurt. They would sit around the campfire and exchange a piercing glares. Back when the West was really wild, cowboys didn't dance.
Welcome to Cowboy Logic Radio, everyone. I'm Donna Fiducia.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to remind each and every one of you that my name is Don Neuen, and I would like to personally welcome you guys to the Cowboy Logic Radio show for this week. Boy, have we got a riveting show for you. Hey, that was pretty good, Donna. That was pretty good, Donna.
I want to thank our affiliates right off the bat.
All right, let's do that. Yes, you do that.
Okay, that's AM 1330 WLBB, right here in our hometown of Carrollton, Georgia, home of Newt Gingrich and the University of Georgia. Don
Neuen would personally like to thank WLBB 1330 AM and 106.3 FM.
Yes, and our flagship station, WDDQ, Talk 92.1 FM out of Valdosta, Georgia.
Don Neuen would like to personally thank WDDQ, Talk 92.1 FM out of Valdosta, Georgia.
DQ makes me want to go get a soft ice cream cone. WJHC, Talk 107.5 in Jasper, Florida.
Ladies and gentlemen, Don Neuen would like
coming.
to personally thank WJHC 107.5 FM out of Jasper, Florida.
Scott James and all the good folks down
Steve
there.
Steve
Graddick, yep.
And we can't forget our dear brother, our dear friend, L. Ron Hubbard. L. Ron Phillips. Owner of Talk America Radio, found at talkamericaradio.us.
Yes.
Now, I'm going to stop talking like I'm radio puking.
But you're really good at that, because that's about the only time you'll ever get a word in edgewise anyhow.
Yeah, but here's the thing, Donna.
What?
I do the less is more thing.
You do?
When I speak, if you haven't noticed, all of the guests go, "Man, Don, that was a good question." Or, "Hey, Don, I couldn't agree with you more."
Well, you do listen.
"Don, you really don't look like something like that would come out of your mouth."
But you really do listen. And who was it? What was it? Your grandfather that said, "Don, whenever you have the opportunity, shut up."
Yeah. Yeah, both my grandfather and my father.
That never came from my Italian heritage.
Well, Italians don't know how to shut up ever.
Scream is more like
Actually, I hate the word shut up. I really do.
Okay,
I consider that to be a vile
Ferme la bouche.
term. No, but my grandfather did say, every time you get the chance, shut up.
He didn't say shut your pie hole.
No, that wasn't a cool saying back then. Hey, here's a new thing to me, and Donna, I think that you will agree that given the fact that we've got this weekly radio show, that we are inundated with news, that you spent your entire career in the media and news up in New York City, that we get situation reports almost daily from Denise Simon. We're constantly reading news. I mean, it's to the point where we have to take breaks and watch things like Gilligan's Island to relax. You would think that you and I would have heard of white nationalists.
Yeah, I haven't.
You would think that you and I would have heard, and not necessarily, we don't agree with what was going on, okay, in Charlottesville. But you would think we would have at least heard of it. You would think that we would have at least read someplace or discussed it with Denise Simon or talked about it last week about this Unite the Right.
Mm-hmm. That's what it's being
movement called. That was going to take place, or that took place in Charlottesville, Virginia on Saturday. But you know what? You want to know something, ladies and gentlemen? I didn't know that this took place in Charlottesville until about 7 o'clock on Saturday night when you and I first came inside after working outside all day. And we sat down and we turned on the news, and Charlottesville is
on fire.
On fire.
And Charlottesville is just a beautiful area, but it is seriously the bastion of liberalness.
But my point is, you and I do this stuff every day. And maybe I've had my head in the sand, but I never even heard about white nationalists.
Here's what it is. You know what it is? It's the latest Donald Trump's fault item. Everything is Donald Trump's fault. Maxine Waters says Trump is to blame for Charlottesville and there are white supremacists in the White House. Does anyone realize there are a lot of Obama holdovers still in the White House? So does that mean the Obama administration is racist, Maxine?
Hold on a second. Well, Maxine Waters is a joke.
She's going to run for president.
That's fine. Let her do it.
Pocahontas.
All right, look.
Oh, my God.
Well, that's not Maxine Waters.
No, I'm just saying she's going to run too, Pocahontas.
Well, let them all run. All right, look. I want to read something here about the White Nationalist Party. The White Nationalist Party's inspiration was unashamedly nationalist, socialist, and opposed to all democracy. What? Who's giving these idiots the time of day?
The thing is...
And first of all, they're socialists.
They've been trying like crazy to get blacks versus whites to clash. Earth to the protesters on both sides. The person who ran his car into that group, unfortunately, killed a woman who happened to be white. I don't even know the racial mix of all the other protesters, but the guy was also seen apparently throwing rocks at the crowd, the guy who ran his car in there.
Cowboy.
So the two... It just escalated, and it's unfortunate. And nothing that Donald Trump says is ever going to be good enough for these guys. Nothing. And that's just, he came back Monday and said a little bit more forceful stuff against it. But, he said...
He's got mental midgets that are handling him,
there's
quite
violence
honestly.
On many
it
sides
took 3 times for him. And here's the thing.
But isn't that always
Donald
the case?
Trump,
it's never good enough.
Well, that's the problem. It's not. He's got the mainstream media going against him. They've got him under a microscope. He cannot afford to make mistakes. And that's a big problem. That's a lot of pressure to be under. But it's a fact. He cannot make a mistake.
Whereas Obama
and he made 2 of them this weekend.
But Obama could say anything.
Obama had the mainstream media in his back pocket,
You want
Donna.
your doctor, you can keep your doctor. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Hey, by the way, with regard to this white nationalist crap... they've got this big list of notable individuals, all right? And I'm scanning this list.
And you don't know any of them?
There's one that I recognize the name of.
Who's that?
David Duke.
Yeah, and was he
There's
there?
one guy.
No, because whenever you mention the KKK,
but all these other people, I've never even heard of them. All right, let me ask you this. You've been in the media.
Duke there?
Notable, no, I don't think so.
Of course not.
David Duke's an idiot.
He's never been around
All right,
anywhere.
let me read some of these to you.
Unless you're in the
notable media, notable white nationalist media. See if you've ever heard of these. You spent your entire
I'm sure it's the
career,
entire Fox News channel.
No, you spent your entire career in the media.
Yes.
All right? American Renaissance. You ever heard of them?
No.
Candor.
No.
The Daily Stormer.
No.
Info 14.
No.
Metapedia.
No.
National Vanguard.
No.
Occidental Observer.
I've heard Occidental College. They're commies.
Occidental Observer. You ever heard of it?
No.
Okay. Pod Blank.
No.
The Political Cesspool.
No.
Red Watch.
No.
Stormfront.
No.
Vanguard News Network. Okay.
No.
My point is, ladies and gentlemen, nobody gives a rat's you-know-what about this.
Nope.
They are inconsequential, and the mainstream media has made them headline news, and it's pathetic.
Round up the usual suspects. It's Donald Trump's fault. And Maxine Waters said that the usual suspects like Steve Bannon and Sebastian Gorka are the ones who caused this.
Here are some other. These are fascinating.
This is insane. It really is.
They also say to see these: new nationalism, alt-right, anti-Zionism, black nationalism.
I've heard, that's what they call
here's
it.
one: know nothing. KNOW. Know nothing. That puts it into perspective, ladies and gentlemen. Know nothing.
However, Zero Hedge had a story on Monday that I found to be very interesting. Zero Hedge is kind of on the edge, no pun intended. And a lot of the stuff they do, mostly financial, I read, and it's usually right on, dead on accurate. But some of their news items are also on the edge and quite good. And they quote the Southern Poverty Law Center, which is no friend to the right. However, again, this is on Zero Hedge via the Southern Poverty Law Center and some other sources. The Unite the Right organizer was a guy by the name of Jason Kessler, and he was an Obama supporter. He was also involved in the Occupy movement years ago, and as recently as last November, before establishing the so-called, quote, white supremacist group Unity and Security for America in January of this year. You know what?
So
all
he's
I can
just
say
an
is
agitator no matter who's in office.
But what I think this is a highly orchestrated deep state coup. I'm sorry. This fits. This absolutely fits. They start this narrative. The fomenting of the narrative in the mainstream media keeps going. And this is really insane. At a recent speech in favor of Charlottesville as a sanctuary city, Kessler live streamed himself as an apparently attendee at a sanctuary city gathering where a woman brought up Occupy and they had a little disagreement. He was visibly perturbed. Kessler has placed his red pilling around the December 2013 when a PR executive was apparently excoriated for a tasteless Twitter joke about AIDS in Africa, and Kessler stated, quote, so it was just a little race joke, nothing that big of a deal. I mean, this guy is a lunatic, and you know what? To me, I think the left finds willing allies in the media to foment this crap.
Of course they do. All you have to do is turn on the news last weekend and Monday, and all you see is white nationalism, white nationalism, white
Something
nationalism,
doesn't
white
smell
nationalism.
right, and I think Jeff
follow
Sessions
the
needs
money
to look
trail.
into this. In fact,
follow
exactly.
the damn money trail.
And now you know what? I bet you find George Soros there.
Well, you
somewhere.
might. Well, here's the deal. We're not going to speculate on Charlottesville anymore because, quite frankly, there's not enough information out. What I can tell you is this. Denise Simon talked to me last night, and she brought up a real interesting point. No less than a half a dozen times, she saw a Confederate flag at this
of course,
Unite
I'm sure they
the Right.
printed it all up.
But here's the deal.
What?
It was an incorrectly printed Confederate flag.
Oh, that seems to be par for the course.
Now, I'm going to go out on a limb here based on my conversation with Denise Simon and my conversation with Donna Fiducia. Look at Russia. Let's find out if Russia has anything to do with the chaos that was created in Charlottesville last weekend.
I think it's more like Ukraine.
Well, it might
Remember,
be.
Ukraine
but I
has a good connection with John McCain and
I
Hillary
think this
Clinton.
came out of Moscow.
Well, something doesn't smell right. But you know what? It's funny you mentioned things being printed wrong. You know, Colin Kaepernick is still jobless as far as I can tell. He's unemployed. Okay.
You know, that name sounds familiar.
Yeah, he's supposedly
what did he do?
a football player. But here's the point. An NFL football player, no less. He doesn't have a job.
Kaepernick.
Yeah, but listen to me.
I am.
In front of the NFL in
I'm
New
trying
York,
to figure. I'm trying to remember who he is.
in front of the, so are a lot of people. In front of the NFL headquarters in New York, they had a organized protest. I mean, they just protest anything when you've got
Don't these
bottomless
people
pits.
work?
Yeah, but the thing is, that is what they work for. These protests against Donald Trump were paying these people very handsomely.
I'm sure they
and
were.
giving them some of them vacations. The ones that followed them around. Anyhow. So they have these signs printed up for Colin Kaepernick calling for the boycott of the NFL. The owners are all racist. They're, not giving him a job because of what he did. And guess what they did? They
fired him.
No, they misspelled Kaepernick's name.
Yeah, well, I'd probably misspell it if I tried to spell. Hey, I need to share some real news. All this other stuff that we're talking about,
It
has very
tragic.
little credibility.
What happened in Charlottesville is just tragic.
Straight out of Switzerland, Donna. Okay. I don't think you knew this, and I have Swiss heritage in me. Insect balls.
Really?
Insect balls.
What do you need?
Based on protein-rich mealworms for human consumption. They're coming to a grocery store near you. August 21st. Because
Is there anything like
the
mountain
Swiss
oysters?
government has approved the human consumption of insect balls.
It's pretty gross to just think about it. I'm
Again,
sorry.
based on protein-rich mealworms. Doesn't that make you salivate, Donna?
No, not at all, actually.
Really?
You know what we haven't mentioned?
Insect balls.
Besides that, no.
What?
You've mentioned insect balls before you've mentioned North Korea. We haven't even mentioned... I mean, we are in the brink, possibly, of... global nuclear warfare here.
Well,
usually assured destruction, and we're not even talking
Are you
about
surprised that,
No,
the
because
weekend
that's exactly
before
what the left
the little
wants.
dictator from North Korea
Pay no
threatens
attention
a Guam where we've got military, U.S. military, we're talking about white nationalists,
You know
something that
why?
I never even heard of
It's like The
until
Wizard
Saturday.
of Oz. The Wizard of Oz was the most prophetic movie ever. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. Saul Alinsky, create chaos. That's what it is. But you know what I think's going to happen?
What?
Remember, was it Hank Johnson, our esteemed
Well, yeah,
congressman
Guam's
here?
going to tip over.
Yeah, I think if we send enough troops over to Guam, it may very well tip over at this point again.
And that would help protect everybody because it would be upside down,
Yeah, so it
and
wouldn't
he
matter.
would just hit Earth.
And then the North Koreans wouldn't have anything there worthwhile.
Donna, one of your pet peeves is the Iran deal.
Oh, big time.
Okay, and all the money that we gave Iran, and John Kerry and Barack Obama thought this would be the greatest thing for their
Brought in
legacy.
on pallets in the dead of night. And
Check
small
this out.
bills.
According to the Washington Free Beacon, Donna, Iran has invested $500 million in war spending.
Our money.
The UN reports that Iran is violating international accord banning ballistic missile work. Now, here's the next thing. Iran lawmakers chant death to America while passing a measure to boost the spending of their missile program by $260 million. And
$260 million when they have $150 billion is a drop in the bucket.
that adds up right there to like $760 million.
Okay.
They're coming to the Atlantic Ocean.
Yeah. Well,
Watch them.
And who's working with them? The North Koreans. You think? And remember,
you'll have a cataract. I wonder if Kim Jong-un drives a cataract.
let's listen. Nobody likes basketball, and he's 2 feet tall. Here's the thing.
Has anybody seen Dennis Rodman
You've
lately?
got Iran. You've got Iran, over there with a deal by Barack Obama. Iran, which is one of the richest oil countries in the world, saying they need nuclear power to help heat and air condition their country. Yeah, right. Okay. And then you've got Bill Clinton. If there's a back-to-back tape, one of these days we got to get this. I know it's on the internet. A back-to-back tape recording of Bill Clinton and Barack Obama, Clinton with the North Korea thing and Obama with Iran, and they were almost the exact same wording. We're going to give them this money. They're going to do it for peaceful purposes, blah, 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 blah. Hey, how is that working?
What is a bigger threat, Donna, in your opinion? A small group of neo-Nazi, skinhead, racist bastards that congregate in Charlottesville, Virginia for an event that you and I never even heard of, or Iran with $760 million and all of their lawmakers are sitting around chanting death to America.
They were chanting that for ages.
Which is bigger threat?
I guess Charlottesville.
Charlottesville,
that's what
yeah.
CNN seems to talk about.
Yeah, because
hey,
it's
Trump's
white
accomplishments.
nationalists.
Let's do a couple Trump accomplishments since no one talks about it. Illegal crossings down 62%. Fracking oil and gas, we are passing the Middle East. ISIS down by a third. North Korea assembling against our aggression, and I am really happy we got Trump there instead of anybody else. You got the situation with Neil Gorsuch. $2.3 trillion in value added to the stock market. It hit back over 22,000, in fact, on Monday. Over 1 million new jobs, all without the do-nothing Congress. And
the
that's
do-nothing
pretty darn
media.
Cool. That's pretty darn cool.
He's done a lot, given the fact that everything is against him.
Yep, and the USDA is saying 1 million people are off the food stamp rolls since Trump's been president because of the workfare and the crackdown on illegals getting food stamps. And guess what else?
What else?
3.9 million people more were registered to vote in the United States than are eligible to vote. That came out on Monday, too. 1.7 million
What are you trying to say, Donna?
California alone, and in San Diego County, 138% more, just in San Diego County.
Boy, I bet they're proud, because they've got 138% more people voting
voters
than are existing.
And most infractions, of course, were urban areas. I never would have guessed. And you know what? Remember Jill Stein? Let's do the recount. And as they started to recount, Hillary actually lost more electoral votes, so they stopped. That was just the latest morphing of all the anti-Trump stuff that's going. Of course, now what they're doing is they're trying to ruin Paul Manafort and Michael Flynn legally to try to get them to turn on Donald Trump. And yeah, when you've got a bottomless pit, that's essentially what happens. And a lot of people are saying that, in fact, Fox is reporting that President Trump may pardon Arizona Sheriff Joe Arpaio. I hope he does.
And there's one more bit of important news that we have to talk about before we go to break, ladies and gentlemen, and that is that Kid Rock, running for Senate in Michigan, may not be able to use the name Kid Rock. He may have to use his Richie whatever.
You think people will know his name is Kid Rock, though? No, it's Kid Rock.
I don't know. Might not be able to go on the ballot. They're arguing against it.
We'll see.
Donna, who do we have coming up? Because we've got a fantastic show, ladies and gentlemen. We're looking forward to spending the next hour and a half with you. Donna, who is going to make us look good?
Well, Sidney Powell.
She always makes us look good.
Yeah, because she is just amazing, and she's going to talk about corruption inside the DOJ. Imagine that.
It never happens.
No. And then Bill Cowan, Lieutenant Colonel Bill Cowan, my buddy from the Fox News Channel, talking North Korea, and Charles Ortel, the go-to guy for everything about the Clinton Foundation. It's coming up next on Cowboy Logic Radio.
Woohoo!
Cowboys didn't dance, didn't wear designer shirts. Their hearts were filled with memories, their bodies filled with hurt. They would sit around the campfire and exchange a piercing glance. Back when the West was really wild, cowboys didn't dance. Yes, when cowboys didn't dance, didn't wear designer shirts. When their hearts were filled with memories, their bodies filled with hurt. They would sit around the campfire and exchange a piercing glance. Back when the West was really wild, cowboys didn't dance.
Check us out on the web at cowboylogic.us.
Hi, thank you for listening. My name is Ron Phillips, and I'm the owner and operations manager of Talk America Radio. It is with great pride that I offer you these two 24/7 streams of some of the finest talk radio programming in the country, but I need your support. Talk America Radio is a listener-supported network. That means we need your help to continue to offer the quality programming you're hearing right now. Please visit talkamericaradio.us and click the Support Us button. You can contribute monthly or send us a one-time amount. We'll put it to good use continuing to share the American voice. Thank you.
This is Denise Simon. 18 hours a day, I live in a world as an intelligence analyst. Intelligence analyst. Intelligence analyst. Intelligence analyst. Intelligence analyst. Intelligence. What I find is reprehensible. What I find is terrifying. What I find is treasonous. 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 The mainstream media has completely failed the American people. 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 Join me for the Denise Simon Experience every Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern.
Let me talk to you, black people. When you vote for blacks and put them in office under the banner of the Democrat Party, please explain to me what black people get as a result. This was not a nap that we have been taking. We are in a coma. You know what the interesting thing about pensions is? That's today's money given to people who ain't doing nothing for you today. Get off that black Democrat tit that they've been sucking on. Your country is being stolen from you, and the promise is being stolen from your children, and they're telling you it's all right while the rest of the world is trying to lap us. Well, why are we doing so poorly? 2 words: teachers' unions. Are you kidding me?
Black Man Thinking, Monday nights, 9 p.m.
This is Don Neuen, co-host of the Drive Time Sit Rep. Join me as I call in to my Intel analyst, Denise Simon, for my daily situation report, or Sit Rep, the Drive Time Sit Rep. Check talkamericaradio.us for more information and show times.
Hi, this is Michelle Malkin from CRTV.com, and you're listening to Talk America Radio.
KTA Digital Dallas. Talk America Radio. Simulcasting on WDDQ, Talk 92.1, Adel, Valdosta, Georgia, and WJHC, Talk 107.5, Jasper, Florida.
Hey, everybody, they're back on again.
Cowboys didn't dance, didn't wear designer shirts when their hearts were filled with memories, their bodies filled with hurt. They would sit around the campfire and exchange a piercing glance. Back when the West was really wild, cowboys didn't dance.
Welcome back to Cowboy Logic Radio. I'm Donna Fiducia, along with Don Neuen. I was waiting for the radio puke.
And I'm Don Neuen, ladies and gentlemen. Let me personally welcome you back to the really big show, because we've got a really big guest coming up right now. A really, really superstar, a big author, a big lawyer, a big counselor.
And
how was that? Was that pretty radio sounding?
It really did sound like a radio voice. That was scary.
And a really good friend.
But we knew her and had her on many times before Newt Gingrich mentioned her on all the big channels and really gave her some exposure. But hey,
well, I heard Newt Gingrich was trolling us, and that's how he found out that, he too should bring light to this stellar individual. Back to you, Donna.
I don't think so. But we're talking about one Sidney Powell. She's the author and she's an attorney. The name of her book, and folks, this says it all: License to Lie, Exposing Corruption in the Department of Justice. Man, oh man alive, if we don't need that book now, we never will.
Man, oh alive, were you ahead of the curve, Sydney?
How long ago did you write this book?
I wrote it in 2013, and it came out May 1, 2014, and I've been speaking all over the country about it for 3 years, trying to get everybody's attention focused on it, because there's just a huge problem there, and now it's becoming increasingly obvious.
Yeah. And besides, let me just give you everybody a little more background on you, Sydney. You've been lead counsel in more than 500 federal appeals, resulting in more than 180 published decisions, represented clients in complex federal appeals, and consults in complex federal litigation, civil and selective cases. Oh, man. And 10 years in the Department of Justice you were, at least? Is that what I think?
Yes.
Going back from memory?
Yes, and three different U.S. attorneys' offices in western Texas, northern Texas, and eastern Virginia, under 9 different U.S. attorneys from both political parties.
So
and
you've
I didn't
seen
write
corruption
this book
both
as a
ways.
political. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I didn't write this book as a political statement at all. I wrote it to get off my chest the egregious prosecutorial misconduct I had witnessed and the deterioration in ethics in the Department of Justice over a period of 10 to 15 years. It was just stunning to me to see prosecutors do the kinds of things that the prosecutors did that I describe in detail and document in the book. I mean, there's sources, transcripts, and evidence for everything I say in the book. And then Mueller goes and picks one in particular of the worst prosecutors. I call him the poster boy for prosecutorial misconduct, is now one of the lead counsel on Mueller's hit squad.
And who is that?
Andrew Weissman.
And he's in your book, right?
He is in the book, all over the book, because he was deputy director and then director of the notorious Enron task force, which ran roughshod over everybody in Houston. Lawyers across the country still write me to tell me they have never seen anything like the conduct of Andrew Weissman and the Enron task force lawyers.
And that ended up 80,000 jobs. 80,000 jobs were lost because of that witch hunt. And it pretty much...
That was just the Arthur Anderson prosecution that cost 85,000 jobs.
I'm getting them mixed
and destroyed a company all for nothing because the Supreme Court reversed it 9-0 3 years later.
That's what I'm saying. And the damage is done. And that's what the problem is right now. You've got Mueller, who, by the way, interviewed for the FBI director job after Comey was fired and didn't get it. So if you don't have enough sour grapes there already, nothing is going to be sour grapes, okay? So you've got Mueller now going after people like Paul Manafort and Flynn, okay? And ruining them because they end up having to spend their entire life savings on legal counsel. And you've got a bottomless pit of 16 lawyers now going after these guys just to find dirt on Donald Trump. And the whole thing initially was supposed to be to find a Russian connection, but from what I gather, this other aberration of lawyership, and that would be Rod Rosenstein, made it such a broad language in this whole document that Mueller does have a lot of leeway, and that was not supposed to happen.
No, Rosenstein wrote an extremely broad directive to the special counsel, and the whole thing has already morphed into something far beyond what anyone rational comprehended to begin with. But frankly, I saw it going in that direction, and it's just going to get worse.
What do they say if you're the FBI or the CIA or any of these investigative areas, show me the person, I'll show you the crime. I mean, when you think about it, Whitewater was an investigation, and then we ended up getting Monica Lewinsky. I mean, if they want you, they can get you. And I don't think Donald Trump or Paul Manafort or Flynn are going to be able to be smart enough under oath to say it depends upon what the meaning of is, you know?
Well, in 1940, then Attorney General Robert H. Jackson delivered a speech called The Federal Prosecutor. You can find it on Google. You can find it on my blog site, seekingjustice.org. And it talks then about how prosecutors have a special duty to be very careful because with the plethora of federal laws that there is, a prosecutor can find something to pin on anyone. And now we have probably 1,000 times more federal laws and regulations than we had in 1940. The explosion and overcriminalization of everything has just gone ballistic. So, yeah, they can find something to pin on they could find something to pin on the Pope.
Yeah. What do you think about this raid of Paul Manafort's house after he totally complied 100%? I mean, it seems like it's grandstanding to me to make Mueller look justified in impaneling a grand jury now, which, again, I think is Mueller trying to be an end run around people are saying he should be fired.
Oh, it's excuse me. It's more than grandstanding. It's a typical terrorist tactic that people like Andrew Weissman use when they want to literally terrorize the subjects of their investigation. Because can you imagine being asleep in your home at 5 o'clock in the morning or whatever time it was with your wife and children or guests or whatever, and having the front door of your house kicked in and 50 FBI agents pour in, or however many it was? I mean, that's just, it's an outrage. There's absolutely no reason that they couldn't have served a warrant at 10 o'clock in the morning. This isn't a drug case where you're worried about people flushing stuff down the toilet.
Yeah, like he's going to flee the country.
Yeah, let me ask you this, Sidney. Did they had to have a court order to be able to do that? Am I correct?
That's correct.
So who
and what judge signed off on doing something like that? And I'm not, I got to be transparent here that I'm not a huge fan of Manafort. I mean, that is something that, for me, the verdict is still out on. There's a lot that's telling me that I don't like this guy. But
yeah, I don't know anything about Manafort, but I do know that this isn't the kind of case you would need to kick in the door at 5 o'clock in the morning or whatever time it was and terrorize everybody in that house.
Who would have signed off on something that extreme, that terroristic, as you put it?
A federal magistrate judge in the District of Columbia or in New York. I don't know. I haven't done the research to see who actually signed that search warrant.
Well, now you have a federal grand jury being impaneled in Washington, D.C. Of course, they could have done it in Virginia, but they didn't. And 97% of Washington, D.C. voted for Hillary Clinton. I mean, this is insane. Why do you think Donald Trump isn't using the power of his office to push back on this? I mean, I know they say he can't fire Mueller because politically it's not going to look good. But does he have any recourse as president? I mean, Obama seemed to take the reins and run with the bit and run with it. That's a horse term. But the thing is, right. I mean, to me, Trump is being castrated.
But the Obama administration had the mainstream media as lapdogs.
I know.
Okay,
and
that's
the protection of the Congress and the fact that there was no way America had the political will to impeach its first black president. Right. I mean, people have been laying in wait to try to impeach Donald Trump since before he took office.
Well, and what they're doing is they're creating, I really think, a basis for total civil unrest in this country, because 50% of the country, unfortunately, not the ones with political clout, voted for Donald Trump. And if you look at the red-blue states and the red-blue map of counties, I mean, there's hardly anything that went for Hillary Clinton except around the cities.
California, New York, and
right.
The cities, yeah.
Exactly. And those people the people who voted for Trump because they didn't have a voice. That's why they voted for him. And they're being poo-pooed and they're being knocked down every step of the way because of what I feel is the uniparty.
Yes. I agree with the uniparty concept. I mean, there's obviously a massive establishment in Washington and other parts of the country that have been feeding each other and scratching each other's backs for decades and making scads of money in the process.
All right, so Trump's personal...
All right, hang on a second, Donna. Hey, Sydney, how do you... This is kind of a curveball question for you. In your book... You've written this as a legal thriller, but you name names. Now, that in itself makes this book unlike almost anything else that I've ever heard of.
Right. No lawyer has ever written a book like this.
How do you protect yourself from guys like these people that we've just been talking about?
Robert Mueller.
Well, God did not give me a spirit of fear. I did not write the book for any political purpose whatsoever. And I live as honorable a life as I can possibly manage to live. So it's not something I'm going to worry about.
We're talking to Sidney Powell, SIDNEY POWELL. Find her at Sidney Powell 1 on Twitter. And her book is Licensed to Lie. That's licensedtolie.com. And again, it exposes the corruption in the Department of Justice, and the people, two of which are prominent names on Robert Mueller's hit list to go against Donald Trump, are in that book. Most, especially this guy, Andrew Weitzman. He's all over the book, like you said. He did what? He did the Enron takedown? I mean, this guy is vile.
Enron task force.
Okay, yeah, why do you think Rosenstein, at this point, why isn't anybody, I mean, because people are pushing back, why isn't Rosenstein feeling any kind of heat to say something to Mueller? At least, I mean, this to me is so out of control at this point that it really is, if it's not contained right now, I think we are going to have a serious problem.
Well, I think Rosenstein he picked Mueller to do this. So he's not going to back up from that choice. He did it for a reason. I don't think Rosenstein should have been in the Department of Justice in the number 2 spot to begin with.
Tell us about Rosenstein's background and his connection, obviously, to Obama.
Well, he's been part of the swamp forever. I have this theory that nobody should be drawing a government paycheck for more than a maximum of 15 years, with the possible exception of the military, because they become entrenched and they view the world a different way. It's just not healthy to be a prosecutor all your life. People need to do other things and get different perspectives. Rosenstein has been a prosecutor for a very long time. He was the only U.S. attorney, I believe, that Obama kept from the prior administration. So that tells you something right there.
And Jeff Sessions picked him, correct? Jeff Sessions, I really love the guy, but I mean,
I don't know that Sessions picked him at all. I don't know who picked him.
I thought Sessions picks his assistant AG.
Well, it could have been forced upon him. Yeah. I don't know, and we may never know exactly who picked Rosenstein, but it certainly wouldn't have been me. I mean, if you can't clean out the swamp by choosing people that have been living in it forever.
And that's the problem. They're everywhere. They're Republicans, they're Democrats. It is the uniparty. And therefore, in fact, I'm going to steal this from a friend of ours, Jeffrey Clark. The swamp is a viable ecosystem. This is a cesspool. This is a cesspool that needs to be pumped. And it's just unbelievable what is happening here. Now, I know it's a fine line, but can Jeff Sessions say anything to Rosenstein about this? I mean, and can't Rosenstein say to Mueller, you're going too far?
Rosenstein could, but I think he picked him and he gave him that directive to do exactly what he's doing. I mean, Rosenstein said in the press recently that, he could rein it in. I forgot what his exact quote was. But the directive he gave was just super broad. It should have been limited to cyber security issues. And instead, it's just this very amorphous thing that can be taken to mean anything.
See, the thing is, this has been going on now for over a year, and they obviously haven't found anything if they're looking at Paul Manafort and Michael Flynn's financial dealings, which have nothing to do with the Russian connection to Donald Trump. I mean, they might have had some doings to the Russians, but then again, from what I hear, so did Robert Mueller through the Clinton Foundation and Hillary Clinton. In fact, from what I hear, didn't Mueller deliver some samples of uranium to the Russians in the Uranium One deal?
Yeah, that was back when Clinton was Secretary of State.
So
frankly, I've said
the
from
Fox
the beginning,
be watching the hen house here? This is insane.
I've said from the beginning, Mueller has more of a conflict of interest via his long-standing relationship with Comey than Sessions has with Trump.
And
Sessions and Trump haven't been buddies forever, but Comey and Mueller have been for years.
That's the
and
other
on top
thing.
Of that,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's all right. We need to go back a little way to realize, too, that it was Leslie Caldwell or Loretta Lynch who brought in Leslie Caldwell, I think, to DOJ, or Holder who brought in Caldwell to DOJ. Caldwell was working with Andrew Weissman. She was the first director of the Enron task force. And then Lynch comes into DOJ. Lynch and Caldwell and Weissman go way back to the New York U.S. Attorney's Office. I mean, way back. So the three of them have been in league for a long time. Weissman is still at DOJ when Rosenstein and Sessions come in. He was head of the fraud section, courtesy of Leslie Caldwell and Loretta Lynch. I am as sure as I'm sitting here that Weissman and Rosenstein and Mueller and Comey agreed on this whole plan. And then, Comey does his leak. Within a day or two, Rosenstein names Mueller to the investigation. I mean, don't tell me this wasn't all worked out before that
think it comes from Barack Obama, quite frankly. I think this is a talking point. Obama has all of this intel at his fingertips. If it didn't come from him, it came from the Clintons. Because they
that doesn't
needed
surprise
to have,
me either.
Right. They needed to have, because the narrative is too orchestrated. All the mainstream media says almost the same thing verbatim. And then it morphs into the next thing verbatim. I mean, it's unbelievable how things just totally change. Almost at the blink of an eye. But then all of a sudden, all the mainstream media, I call them the lamestream media, are fake news, say the same essential narrative, and in many times using the same wording. You got to know it's coming from. But here's what I was trying to say before, which when you talked, when you were saying something, it popped into my mind here. Sorry, I'm ADD. That when Comey was testifying, he came right out and admitted that he did not give some of this information in order to get a special counsel appointed. I mean, that
exactly.
right there should have stopped the special counsel in its tracks. And Comey should be in jail.
I don't know whether his leaks rise to the level of a criminal offense, but it wouldn't surprise me a bit if they did.
All right. So now why isn't, and I know a tit for tat is not very, good to do, but why can't Jeff Sessions appoint somebody to look into the Clinton Foundation, which will bring in all these other cast of characters? Another person you mentioned from New York, that's Preet Bharara. I believe he's on Mueller's group too, who was fired by Donald Trump, and he was wasn't he the AG for the Southern District of New York?
Yeah, the U.S. attorney, yes.
He took Loretta Lynch's place. So Trump fires him, and I believe Mueller hires him, if I'm not mistaken.
I think he was in a different district than Loretta Lynch, but
okay.
Yes, he was a U.S. attorney and for a long time, and one of the bad prosecutors for that district. In fact, 2 districts in New York are notorious for their prosecutorial misconduct and bad tactics, and he and Loretta Lynch were heads of both of them, I think.
But you really run into almost a communist state, not even a socialist, but a communist state, when the government is given enough power to destroy anybody they want. And that's where we are right now with this, in my opinion.
And we don't need a special prosecutor to investigate the DNC and not to mention the Debbie Wasserman Schultz stuff. And the whole IT scandal inside of Congress. But it could be done from the Department of Justice itself. There's no need for a recusal of anybody there.
And why isn't Jeff Sessions doing that?
I don't know.
Or maybe he is and we don't know?
That could be. That's the way it should be, frankly.
So frustrating.
I agree with that.
But the thing is...
hold on a second, Donna. We've only got about 4 more minutes left. Sydney, I want to talk about your book and the great strides you're making with this. Ladies and gentlemen, License to Lie, Exposing Corruption in the Department of Justice. This could not be a more timely book for you all to research and purchase. It also is proving to be way ahead of the curve. And Sydney, I just want to let our listeners know that they can obviously find this at your website, but we also have this, ladies and gentlemen, as one of the featured books on the TalkAmericaRadio.us website bookstore. It's listed in there. All you got to do is go find the book, click on it, and it'll take you to a link. I think it's an Amazon link, actually, where you can buy the book. But, Sydney, take a couple of minutes. Tell the listeners again about the book, how to find it, and why right now this unique book, this unique thriller, is so important.
Well, License to Lie gives the inside story of how a task force like Mueller has put together works. And on top of that, 2 of the people that I name and go into detail of their tactics and arguments and the cases they worked on and how abused and abusive they were are detailed in the book. That includes Michael Dreeben, who argued the Supreme Court cases that were all reversed. He did not commit prosecutorial misconduct by any means, but he argued for a gross overextension of the law on behalf of the Solicitor General in any number of cases. And I detail the arguments, but in an interesting way. People say it's a page turner and a fast read for those who are not lawyers even. I wrote it in the style of a legal thriller because I wanted everyone to be able to read it and understand the toll that egregious and abusive prosecutions take on everyone. And in these cases, the prosecutors even made up crimes, made up facts, coerced people into saying whatever they wanted them to say, and hid evidence that they knew showed that the defendants were innocent. and it covers the Ted Stevens cases, the Merrill Lynch Enron case, other Enron-related cases, and the task force of Enron prosecutors then became, despite their abuses and misconduct, became leading people, particularly in the Obama administration. But President Bush promoted one of them, too, to acting assistant attorney general for the criminal division of the Department of Justice, and he then rushed the indictment of Senator Stevens, costing Alaskans their most beloved senator and changing the balance of power in the Senate. Ruined him and enabled the enactment of Obamacare. So these prosecutions have an enormous effect on our country. Prosecutors have absolute immunity, something I've argued for 3 years needs to change. We should be able to sue prosecutors who intentionally violate the law themselves and hide evidence. After all, that's what we call obstruction of justice.
Seems like that's what James Comey did, too.
Yeah, nothing happens to these prosecutors.
Unbelievable.
And they have sovereign immunity, so nothing can happen to them, and that's just not right.
Especially when they've got the government behind them and the bottomless pit as far as money, and you've got people like Paul Manafort and Michael Flynn, whether they are guilty or not, they're being ruined financially through the legal system because they have to defend themselves, and in some cases, it may be this case, unjustly.
Again, hold on, Donna. Again, ladies and gentlemen, we'll give you Sydney's website address here. But if you want, while you're on the TalkAmericaRadio.us website, go under the home link in the menu. There's a sub menu that says Bookstore. Go to Bookstore, and you will find License to Lie: Exposing Corruption in the Department of Justice by our dear friend Sidney Powell.
Yep, and talked about on the air most recently by none other than Newt Gingrich. So we're so happy that people are seeing what you've written and seen the corruption inside the Department of Justice because of your work there, Sidney Powell. LicensedToLie.com. On Twitter, it's at Sidney Powell 1, and your blog is seekingjustice.org, correct?
Correct. My blog is horribly out of date, though. I've got a lot of articles at the New York Observer website, observer.com, and for bigleaguepolitics.com, and a couple for the National Review Online.
Cool.
And also on Twitter, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to engage directly with Sidney, I can tell you that firsthand, I know that she's very active on Twitter. She will engage with you. So look her up on Twitter. Donna, what's the Twitter handle again?
At Sidney, SIDNEY, Powell, POWELL 1. At Sidney Powell 1. Sidney Powell, again, keep up the great work, and I'm glad that this book is getting traction because it is so important in this day and age. Good luck to you, and we'll have you back on soon, but thanks again for joining us here on Cowboy Logic Radio.
Thank you both so much.
And coming up next, we'll be talking to Lieutenant Colonel Bill Cowan and what's going on with the lunatic in North Korea.
Cowboys didn't dance, didn't wear designer shirts. Their hearts were filled with memories, their bodies filled with hurt. They would sit around the campfire and exchange a piercing glance. Back when the West was really wild, cowboys didn't dance, yes. When cowboys didn't dance, didn't wear designer shirts. When their hearts were filled with memories, their bodies filled with hurt. They would sit around the campfire and exchange a piercing glance, yes. Back when the West was really wild, cowboys didn't dance.
Check us out on the web at cowboylogic.us.
Hello, everyone. I'm Donna Fiducia.
And I'm Don Neuen. And this is Cowboy Logic Radio.
Cowboys didn't dance, didn't wear designer shirts. When their hearts were filled with memories, their bodies filled with hurt. They would sit around the campfire and exchange a piercing glance, yes. Back when the West was really wild, cowboys didn't dance.
to Cowboy Logic.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's Don NEUEN here, and I am glad to take over this radio show. I'd like to welcome each and every one of you back to an absolute riveting broadcast of Cowboy Logic Radio. The guest that we have coming up right now is not only a dear friend, he's also a hero to us. And he's an authority on anything that comes out of his mouth. Back to you, Donna.
He's a badass is what he really is. I'm sorry, there's just no other way to say it. I'm talking about Lieutenant Colonel Bill Cowan. Folks, you know him as a Fox News Channel contributor for many years. He's a retired Marine officer, though, with 3.5 years in Vietnam, the only Marine in the Pentagon's most classified counter-terrorist unit that remains to this day under tightest security. Also, a senior military ops officer, did covert missions in the Middle East, Europe, and Latin America, and after the Marine Corps, if you're Barack Obama, served as a legislative assistant to Senator Warren Rudman, involved in numerous responses to terrorist acts and hostages held in Beirut and Kuwait, directly involved in a number of successful rescues of children kidnapped in the U.S. by foreign-born parents. Bill Cowan, welcome back to Cowboy Logic Radio.
Hey, Donna, great to be with you. I hope my wife didn't hear all that about me being some kind of a badass. She would take great exception to that. I do what she tells me to do. I do it willingly.
And if you don't, she will beat the crap out of you.
Yeah, there's a reason for that, Colonel, and that is that, fortunately, she's a bigger badass than you are.
Yes.
Yeah, there you go, Don. Thank you. Now I hope she is listening.
All right, now wait a minute. Before we get into the meat of this interview, there's another thing that we always fail to recognize you for. Mm-hmm. And that is the membership that you have in an organization that Donna and I will never be asked to be into. And that is, and you're going to have to help me with this, Colonel, because I don't have any of my notes in front of me about your bio, but it's the Organization for Geniuses.
Well, I think a lot of people would argue whether or not I'm a member of Mensa. There's a lot of people in
there you go.
Mensa, but I think being a member of Mensa doesn't necessarily mean you're smart. It means you're a good test taker, and I always was a good test taker. So when I took the Mensa test, to be totally candid with you, the night before, I got knee walking, snot flying, commode hugging drunk. I had a hell of a hangover, and anybody back in the old days, if you were a good test taker, you always remembered when in doubt, Charlie out. That is on a multiple choice question. If you didn't know the answer, pick C. And so I picked a lot of C's that morning. And obviously I was right.
Oh, my gosh. Don't you have to be Jewish
in doubt,
to be
Charlie out.
Don't you have to be Jewish to be in the Mensa Club? Oh, that's a mensch. I thought you had.
Yeah, that's a mensch.
That's a mensch. There's a difference.
I'm definitely not Jewish.
Not with the name of Bill Cowan, you're not. Okay,
but I am a big supporter of Israel.
Absolutely. And you have a movie out. Tell us about True Iran. Find it at trueiran.org.
Yeah, I'm just a minor participant in that documentary that was put out. They're getting ready to do volumes 2 and 3 of it, and what it really is kind of a wake-up call to the audience about the threat that Iran presents to us. It's in the news. Most Americans pay some attention, not too much, a little bit now and then if there's something big. But the fact of the matter is that all the time, while we're not paying much attention, the Iranian mullahs are paying very close attention. And they are on a path to build that nuclear warhead and get it in a position where it can be launched. They've said many times, not hiding anything. It's their intent is to push Israel into the sea and come after the West, come after the United States. And so, we go about our daily lives ourselves to a large degree, the Iranians themselves, the bad Iranians. And one of the key points about this movie is, while we want to see the mullahs out, we want to remember that the vast majority of Iranians are pro-West, pro-American. They love our culture. They love us. Many of them live here. They come and go. And there's always they get away from all those motorcycles. There's always this issue of them, the Iranian people, the vast majority of them, to overthrow their own regime. But they can't, because the mullahs control with fear, power, terror, killings almost every day. There's executions over there. People the mullahs find who are, they believe, anti-regime. So it's this documentary, trueiran.org, well done. A lot of very, very smart people in there. I'm a minor player in that thing, but I was pleased to have been asked to participate in it. And you can, I don't know for certain, I apologize, I don't know, you can go on trueiran.org and get the trailer, and at some point you'll be able to get the entire documentary, the entire movie. It's worth people paying attention to.
Well, I know that when this had an airing not long ago, I believe in D.C., Denise Simon attended it, along with Ron Phillips from Talk America Radio, and they were both very impressed with the documentary. So big hat tip to you, Colonel.
Yep. Well, I'm a minor player, and I'm proud to have been to be associated with that effort, because it is an effort to educate and illuminate not only people here in America. It's going to be running on many of the network cable television shows or cable networks, in the Middle East. So we're trying to get more people in the Middle East even aware of what's going on inside Iran. Believe me, inside Iran, the Iranians know what's going on, and they're living a tough life for the most part. And hopefully, movies, documentaries such as this will help bring about regime change in a faster way. We're not talking about military action. We're talking about supporting the people inside Iran that want to make that change.
Right.
Well, they tried during the Obama administration. He didn't help out. And you
didn't help one bit.
No, and you can talk about Iran vis-a-vis Barack Obama as far as nukes and advancing their nuclear program with $150 billion of our money. And you can talk about Bill Clinton doing the same thing in North Korea decades ago, and look what we're dealing with right now. But the real problem now, Bill Cowan, in my opinion, is the correlation between those two countries and how they are working together. And it's getting pretty obvious now, given all the saber rattling by the little fat North Korean that, was basically trying to blow up and annihilate the United States, starting with Guam, United States territory.
Well, Donna, you make a great point in there that's not well covered, and I know I've known about it for a few years now because of my association with intelligence programs, and that is that the Iranians have played an active role and the North Koreans an active role in each other's programs for building nuclear weapons. They've always had some scientific and technological interaction between the two. They're both, although separate, distinct countries, they're both on that same path to getting that bomb built. The North Koreans, of course, have a bomb built, and my understanding is a lot of North Korean technology has made its way to the Iranians. So these are two bad actor countries. Neither one of them wants nuclear power, nuclear weapons for peaceful purposes. They want it for going on a rampage, and that rampage is in many cases, many respects, directed at the United States or our close allies.
Colonel Cowan, the situation that's going on right now, I'm sure you'll agree with me, in North Korea and the Korean, that region is extremely convoluted and complex. You've got a lot of players, two of which you guys just mentioned, North Korea and Iran. But we've also got Russia as an instrumental player. We've got China as an instrumental player. We've got a new player on the ball field as of, I'm going to guess, maybe, at least I found out about it maybe 6 weeks ago, and that's Pakistan. And then you've got the allies that are over there, South Korea, Japan, the United States, and others. But this is really convoluted in that the right decision is eluding us right this moment, I think, and you've got potentially a lot of wrong decisions. In your opinion, what do you see as the best outcome for resolving this to where the United States will stand tall and proud with integrity?
Well, listen, Don, like you're suggesting, there's an awful lot going on, and I think some of the bigger things going on still are in the future. The Chinese, well, let me say also, neither the Chinese nor the Russians want to see any kind of major military activity. They do not support, they probably don't care if Kim Jong-un runs his mouth off all the time. They do care if he starts firing nuclear-tipped missiles. But I think the Chinese are in an awkward position right now. They're kind of boxed in, which is good for us. China, within the past couple of days, made a public announcement that if North Korea takes preemptive action, the Chinese, will not support them. they will allow some kind of retaliatory action. And they mean retaliatory action on the part of the United States. The Chinese are boxed in a position that they don't like. And it all centers around Kim Jong-un. Kim Jong-un is threatening not only the United States, but certainly the Philippines, the Japanese, South Korea. And when those countries start thinking, hey, we have to have nuclear weapons to protect ourselves, that gets in China's backyard very, very quickly. And the Chinese don't want that to happen. So my general sensing is that the harder the Chinese are pushed up against the wall because of Kim Jong-un, the more anxious they are going to be for him to be out of power. They realize, just like everybody else, that guy's a fat little dictator. And if you go back and look at what happens when the people turn against the fat little dictator and he's suddenly gone, things can dramatically change. You know, our presence, our American presence in South Korea is not because of the Chinese. Our presence in South Korea is because of North Korea. Mm-hmm. And I tend to think with some very deft deliberations and negotiations with the Chinese, we could work with them somehow to get Kim Jong out of there if the Chinese had some assurances that with him gone and a regime change, that the Americans were not going to move forces into North Korea. In fact, if he wasn't there, we could move our forces out of South Korea. So I think there's a number of dynamics here that could play out. And if we woke up tomorrow and found out that a cruise missile fired by who cares who had taken out Kim Jong-un, it'd be a big sigh of relief around the world, and that includes in China.
Are we prepared to deal with a regime change? And I think that we will all agree that the United States has been not very successful at regime changes.
Well, look, I think if we looked at it carefully, you know, one concern the Chinese have is if there's major activity inside of North Korea, that millions of refugees will flee from North Korea into China. There's plenty of refugees that have fled across the border already. That's a big problem for the Chinese. And so if there's going to be some kind of change, and look, people will say, well, his generals are never going to accept that. Well, he's killed an awful lot of generals, and I have to believe that out of the thousands that are left, there's a lot of them that are not happy with the fact that they may get nuked at any moment because of that fat punk running the country. So I don't think it would be outside the realm of possibility, much like in Iraq. Let's go back and look at what happened. When we went into Iraq, we had already agreed, our military had agreed with their military that if they would put down their arms and not engage us on the battlefield, we wouldn't engage them. And for the most part, that happened, except for the Republican Guards. So in North Korea, there's going to be, I believe, a lot of people, a lot of military leaders, a lot of government leaders who the notion of him being gone appeals to them, although they can't say anything even to each other about it. And that if it was gone, there would be the opportunity for rapid change that was positive. But look, against that backdrop, I'll go back to what I said just a few minutes ago, Don, and that is no American involvement. If there's going to be regime change, have the involvement be South Korean involvement. And Chinese, after he's gone, South Korean and China working together to try to bring about some stability for the country up there. And I maybe I'm totally wrong. Maybe I'm off my rocker. I'm certainly not working in State Department, so I'm sure this is something that none of them would be clamoring for. But I tend to think there may be a path which keeps the U.S. out of it, which allows that regime change to go on, and which ends up with a stable Korean peninsula, north and south, now known as Korea. People in the north now being taken care of, fed, economy changes, things change. Korea is not a threat without nuclear weapons, not a threat to China. And China can continue to trade with now the Korea, not just South Korea and North Korea, but with Korea itself. This is far-fetched thinking, but I don't think it's outside the realm of possibility, because at the end of the day, in my judgment, the Chinese are going to want the same thing that we want. Kim Jong-un out of there, the nuclear threat out of there, a stable peninsula that the Chinese can deal with, and so can the rest of the world.
Clearly, China, I believe, would want North Korea, if there was any type of a unification between North Korea and South Korea, that they would want that to not happen and North Korea remain a communist country. Maybe I'm wrong in that, but my argument the other day with Denise Simon, well, it wasn't an argument, it was a discussion with Denise Simon the other day, was that maybe it would be beneficial to China if North Korea and South Korea were able to merge and become one country that was a democratic country, because at that point, think about all the revenue that Korea unified would generate for China, purchasing all the crap that China's stolen from everybody on the planet and starting making cheaper, like iPhones.
Yeah, well, no, listen, Don, you know what? I mean, you're absolutely right. It's in China's benefit to have a unified Korea down there, and they can find ways to benefit from it, right, and economically and agriculturally. You know, there's not much agriculture goes on in North Korea because you can't, because people living under the harshest starvation regime that of anywhere in the world. So I think if the Chinese sit back and look at all the benefits and say, is a communist North Korea more to our benefit than a democratic Korea, or the entire peninsula of Korea? No, I think the entire Korean peninsula is more in is under one country, under one leadership, is more in China's benefit. And again, if China had the opportunity to play a role in whatever came out of getting rid of Kim Jong-un and unifying Korea, I think China would step up and say we'd like to do it. But look,
go ahead.
I'm sorry. Well, listen, Don. All this may be moot at the end of the week, because by the end of the week, who knows what Kim Jong-un is going to do, or the end of the month? What's he going to do? He's a nut job. He's a little punk kid there who's a nut job, and we don't know what he's going to do. But
that's the thing. He's unstable. If he just shut up and live his life out, I don't think anybody would bother with him. But now he's like the bastard stepchild the Chinese aren't too thrilled with. However, the Chinese didn't help situations either by giving them a lot of this Chinese military background, and from what I gather, miniaturizing of North Korea's nukes. All that technology came from China.
I don't know if it came from China or not. It may have come from the Iranians. It may have come.
I think the miniaturization came from Iran.
Oh, did it? I thought that was China.
Yeah, I may be wrong. I don't think China has actively participated. The Russians have, but I don't think China has actively participated in North Korea getting a nuclear weapon, because they don't want a nuclear weapon on their border. It wouldn't have been in their best interest, and they know that North Korea having a nuclear weapon didn't provide any kind of deterrent power for China. So I may be wrong. Maybe they did play a big role, but I don't think so. I think it was more the Iranians working. And remember, the Iranians were supported very heavily by AQ Khan up there from Pakistan, who helped all those other countries put their nuclear weapons together. And also they've been helped by the Russians. A lot of Russian technology, a lot of Russian engineers have been inside Iran for a long time, working side by side with the Iranians on the development of their nuclear program.
Those damn Russians, they're everywhere, aren't they? We're talking with Lieutenant Colonel Bill Cowan, Fox News Channel contributor, and I worked with him many years when I was anchoring at Fox. He's in a movie called True Iran. You can find it at trueiran.org. Please look it up, folks. A very important new movie. You've seen him on 60 Minutes, Larry King Live, Crossfire 2020, and he was highlighted on the Discovery Channel show on the Kuwait hostage rescue because he was a big part of that. And I'm just proud to say he's our friend because he is a big cheese. Okay, I'm going to put you in a hypothetical here. You are about to advise Donald Trump. Now, in my opinion, Donald Trump is now forced with cleaning up Obama and Clinton and George Bush's appeasement mess that is turning into Iran and North Korea. What would you tell him to do at this point?
Thank you. I wasn't prepared for this question, but look, I would say, Mr. President, first off, have somebody help you on some of your tweets so that we're not alienating everybody. Most Americans are, we're not all about your tweets. Some of them are great, some of them aren't so great. But I think that the president, I like him going after people he's going after. You're asking me the foreign policy things. I think he's doing a good job by shouting down Kim Jong-un. He has to do that. I think he's doing a good job with the Chinese. Everybody's kind of boxed in with him right now. They don't know what to expect. There's nothing wrong with keeping them on their toes all the time. But I do believe, I was listening to Mark Levin last night talk about how 95%, or maybe it was tougher, talking about how 95% of the political appointees in government are still Obama holdovers, absolutely opposed to Trump any way they can be. He's got to get in there and clean all those people out. He can't be working his own agenda when the people who are supposed to be working it are working against him. But the president has so many things to do. I'm hoping John Kelly, as the new chief of staff, is going to make a difference, but it remains to be seen. I'm one of those people who believes McMaster should be out of there.
Yeah,
it was a last-minute decision to put him in there. I don't think that was a good decision. I'd like to see, because he's not a big strategic thinker. He might be a reasonable military guy, but he's not a big strategic thinker. I would have seen John Bolton go in there. John would have started cleaning out that State Department. Tillerson won't let him clean it out. There's a lot of people that have to be cleaned out. The president has to be made aware of that. They have to get that list. I think Steve Bannon maybe had it. Derek Harvey, before he was fired, had the list of Obama holdovers in the National Security Council staff, but he couldn't get anything through. And McMaster said, well, you've got a leadership problem. Derek Harvey doesn't have a leadership problem. I know people who worked for Derek Harvey who said he was the finest officer they ever served with. The finest officer they ever served. You get that out of some enlisted folks, you're really getting something. But McMaster thought, because Harvey said they were obstructionist Obama holdovers, McMaster said, well, you got a leadership problem. No, he doesn't. You have the leadership problem, General McMaster. You're in a place you shouldn't be in my opinion.
What do you think about McMaster giving all access security still to Susan Rice? What the heck?
No, seriously. To me, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. McMaster doesn't believe that Obama holdovers are affecting at all what's happening on the National Security Council staff. In the decisions that are being made, in the papers that are being pushed forward. Remember, when you're at the level of the president, you're at the level of McMaster. You're receptive for all the stuff that your staff is pushing uphill. Your staff is getting papers on your desk all the time. You're not able to absorb everything, so you need a staff that is on the same path that the president is on. And Derek said consistently he had people who refused to do what he told them to do, who refused to write the papers that he told them to write, who outright rebellion because they were Obama holdovers. And people getting away with that stuff in the White House is inexcusable.
The swamp is not being drained fast enough, that's for sure. And this is what gets me. What you're talking about with McMaster, I'm seeing the same thing in the Justice Department. I love Jeff Sessions, but why is Rosenstein there? I mean, we were just talking to Sidney Powell about all the corruption with her book, License to Lie, exposing the corruption inside the Department of Justice. It can't be any more on point. And it was written 3 years ago. It's only gotten worse. And then you've got Mueller in there. He doesn't have anybody's interests at heart except to bring down the president.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Donna. And if you step back and look at the way the Republicans, and we're all supposed to be in this together. None of those Republicans, virtually none, there are some exceptions, none of those Republicans, I'll use that big blanket statement, want to see the president succeed because they're all part of the swamp. Yep. And they don't want the swamp to be drained. They all live off the swamp. They thrive off the swamp. They're important people thanks to the swamp. And I hate to say the president's not going to get there, but I'm worried that he's not going to get there.
Yeah, it scares me too. Lieutenant Colonel Bill Cowan, it's more like a cesspool in a swamp, unfortunately, and it does need to be pumped, not drained. Again, you've seen him on 60 Minutes, Larry King Live, Crossfire 2020, and of course the Fox News Channel as a major contributor, and I had him on so many times and I was an anchor there. Lieutenant Colonel Bill Cowan, we can see your new movie, the movie that you're in, TrueIran.org. Find him again, folks, at TrueIran.org. Lieutenant Colonel Bill Cowan, again, thanks so much for joining us on Cowboy Logic Radio. We love you. Love your wife, Velvet. Make sure she, I should say, keeps you in line. Keeps you in line. She will.
Okay. Hey, Donna, thanks so much. It's always a privilege to be on with you. I appreciate being invited.
Thank you, Colonel.
We'll talk to you soon. And coming up, Charles Ortel. We're talking about the Clinton Foundation, the latest with that mess. Coming up next on Cowboy Logic Radio.
Cowboys didn't dance, didn't wear designer shirts. Their hearts were filled with memories, their bodies filled with hurt. They would sit around the campfire.
Hi, thank you for listening. My name is Ron Phillips, and I'm the owner and operations manager of Talk America Radio. It is with great pride that I offer you these two 24/7 streams of some of the finest talk radio programming in the country, but I need your support. Talk America Radio is a listener-supported network. That means we need your help to continue to offer the quality programming you're hearing right now. Please visit talkamericaradio.us and click the Support Us button. You can contribute monthly or send us a one-time amount. We'll put it to good use continuing to share the American voice. Thank you.
Hi, this is Donna Fiducia, co-host of Cowboy Logic Radio. For 28 years, I was in the mainstream media, most recently as an anchor at the Fox News Channel. No more. Ladies and gentlemen, the mainstream media has completely failed the American people. Radio networks like Talk America Radio will not fail you. Radio shows like Cowboy Logic Radio will not fail you. Check out the entire roster of over 60 weekly radio shows by visiting talkamericaradio.us. That's talkamericaradio.us.
TalkAmericaRadio.us.
Hey folks, this is AJ Gaynor, host of Blow and Smoke on the Talk America Radio Network. We know the mainstream media has a narrative they're pushing. On my show, Blow and Smoke, we challenge that narrative, sometimes with simple facts, other times with instinctive logic, but always with truthful, honest debate. I believe the perspective I provide my listeners is indeed unique. Tune in to Blow and Smoke with yours truly, AJ Gaynor, on the Talk America Radio Network and at talkamericaradio.us.
This is Denise Simon, host of the Denise Simon Experience. When I'm not debating with Donna Fiducia about politics, I listen to Cowboy Logic Radio. Why, you ask? Because outside of my blog, founderscode.com, and my own radio show, the Denise Simon Experience, Cowboy Logic is by far the most entertaining and informative radio show on planet Earth. Plus, Don makes me feel guilty if I don't listen to his radio show every week.
Digital Dallas. Talk America Radio. Simulcasting on WDDQ, Talk 92.1, Adel, Valdosta, Georgia. And WJHC, Talk 107.5, Jasper, Florida.
Hey, everybody, they're back on again.
Cowboys didn't dance, didn't wear designer shirts when their hearts were filled with memories. Filled with hurt. They would sit around the campfire and exchange a piercing glares. Back when the West was really wild, cowboys didn't dance.
Welcome back to Cowboy Logic.
Good
I'm
evening,
Donna
ladies
Fiducia.
and gentlemen. I'd like to introduce my co-host, Donna Fiducia. Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Don NEUEN. Why do I tell you
have we got a riveting show for you.
Wow, Donna just walked all over me. Let me pull down her mic while I finish. Let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, something. One of the reasons, and we were talking about this during the commercial break, one of the reasons that you guys stick with this show for 2 straight hours, multiple times a week, multiple weeks a year, multiple years a decade, I believe, according to all the emails that we received, Donna, is because of me, Don NEUEN. Back to you.
Is my mic? Oh, my mic is back on. I didn't say anything because you said you turned my mic off.
Well, these mics are so good
okay.
that I can have them wide open and no one even knows it.
Can we get to the interview?
Let's
please?
get on it. We've got the big cleanup hitter. We've got the number 4 batter. We've got the home run king. We've got the guy that we talk to almost every night.
Yes, we do, as a matter of fact. That would be one Charles Ortel, who's taken an interest into my culinary expertise and calls every day.
No, he's not.
around
He's
6
taken an interest in my health.
That's true. Calls me about every day at 6 o'clock and wants to know what I'm making, which is normally Blue Apron, and I get totally chastised for it. And Blue Apron, by the way, is down to like $5.50 a share. It started an IPO.
Is that because
at 10.
Amazon boy?
It's like non-existent.
Charles Ortel, the authority on anything that we ever want to ask him about. That is such an impressive statement, don't you think, Charles?
Yes.
Well, except any matters having to do with sports, entertainment, musicals, fashion.
We don't have time for any of that stuff. We leave that to People Magazine.
We're talking about financial stuff. And you are an investor, an experienced analyst, and now a financial investigator, because you've seen him, folks, on basically all the big news channels, CNBC, Bloomberg, Fox Business. I love to tell people you were the chairman of the conservative party at Yale.
We actually had members.
I was going to say, I can't believe you actually had members on that one. But the thing is, folks, Charles knows how to read financial stuff, and he has been looking into. He's an investment banker and asset manager, so he's been looking into the Clinton Foundation for at least 4 or 5 years now, Charles.
No, it seems like 4 or 5 years, but it's been since February 2015. So whatever that math is. Still,
point being is, you have found so much stuff that is so far ahead of the curve. And it was funny because when he called me about an hour ago, and he goes, don't you want to kind of do a pre-interview show and find out what's really going on? To which I say, when I talk with him every night, I know what's going on as far as the Clinton Foundation because I talk to you, Charles Ortel. But bring everybody else up to speed as to what you're finding, because I really think the Democrats ought to be careful what they wish for as far as this Russia thing.
Yeah, so thanks for having me back on. What I've been able to demonstrate to the satisfaction not simply of me, but now to a number of government and other investigators, is that what we have here is the largest unprosecuted criminal conspiracy in the history of mankind. This is something that began, I would argue, perhaps as early as when Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton were in undergraduate school and then in law school. These people, I think, they play the roles of independent politicians, but one wonders, are they really just tools of a larger conspiracy to put people on top of the levers, the important levers of power in states, in national governments, in multinational organizations, in academia, and in the media, and around the world, so that people in the very connected inside can loot the system. What has happened, I think when you go just focusing on the Clinton Foundation, you focus on the financial statements that are issued by and other filings that are issued by the Clinton Foundation and its many affiliates going back to the very beginning, October 23rd, 1997. There is not one such filing that is accurate. Every single filing is false and materially misleading. Yet this thing has been allowed to flourish inside and outside the United States, and yet it has, in fact, been investigated. Between February 2001 and sometime early in 2005, somebody we know and don't necessarily love, James Comey, and the FBI under Robert Mueller did mount an investigation of the Clinton Foundation and found bupkis. And there's no way that the many talented men and women who are field officers, forensic accountant types, familiar with the law, familiar with charity fraud, there is no way that those line people would look at the evidence that is in the public domain and say, we'll give them a pass.
It makes no sense because, all you have to do is follow the money trail, especially when you say these names like Comey and Mueller and what they're doing now against the Trumps. It's so obvious. It just makes no sense. You've got things like Uranium One, $145 million deal, and that doesn't get looked at, but Trump's got, a couple meetings with Russian people, and boy, that's a conspiracy.
Well, these people are masters at getting you to look, if you're treating you like a cat with a flashlight, and you look over here and the cat runs over to where that ball of light is. The big numbers that are being stolen here are numbers that are in the hundreds of billions, trillions of dollars. All we need to do is go back to the stimulus program under Obama. $787 billion, that's sales through in whatever year that was, 2009, I think. Because we had shovel-ready jobs ready to go.
Weren't necessarily shovel-ready.
And then they joke about it. Immelt, I don't know if he's a Republican or Democrat, but he was the CEO of one of the largest companies in the world, General Electric. He was tasked with spending this money wisely. He and Obama, when it became known that it didn't work, they laughed about it. They weren't sure. They didn't resign.
This to me is the fleecing of the American taxpayer at the highest levels. And it's not just the Clintons. I think it's certainly the Obamas. We've doubled spending. What do we have to show for that? Where did all that money go? We know $150 billion of it went to Iran, in the dead of night on, with small bills. on big pallets. I mean, it's just unreal.
Yeah, and in some ways it's even worse than that. I mean, what's happened is, if you go back to when I would argue, globalism really took root as a theory, 1989, let's say, 1992, in that time frame, academia, media companies, investment firms, law firms, deal makers, they've embraced this notion of globalism, that it makes tremendous sense because government inside our states and our localities and our federal government has obviously worked so well, right? That's why we need to create a gigantic global bureaucracy. So really, when we speak of globalism, it's not to create a global government. It's to create the appearance of a global government and then let the connected insiders operate, scamming around the world, as Bill and I would argue and his team has done in Haiti, as has happened in these multiple disaster relief efforts where the money never gets counted, like the tsunami in 2000, late 4 or 5 time frame. And, now with Al Gore's ridiculous global warming campaign, I mean, don't check too carefully how much money I'm making in serving you. We're going to come up with this gigantic crisis where the science is not settled, where the evidence is not established, and then, ask everyone around the world who has money and is making money to put money into yet another unchecked kitty. And so, I think what's happened is in the period 89 to the present, we've been in a long period where interest rates have gone down, pushing up asset values around the world, creating the appearance of prosperity and wealth. When in reality, those who should have really been on top of being responsible about money and who should have not let interest rates go as low as they are, should have not inflated this gigantic bubble, those people and their cronies have been robbing the rest of us blind. And when this thing collapses, which it will do, the people in power are going to need somebody to blame. I fear that person will be Donald J. Trump.
Charles Ortel, I remember exactly where I was the first night that you ever called Donna and I, because you hit my cell phone regarding the Clinton Foundation fraud. And Donna, I'm sure you remember where you were. We were sitting in a friend's hospice room. He had terminal cancer, and we were in there visiting him. And you called my cell phone. I left the room, and you said, man, I got something really big to talk about. And that was a couple of years ago, maybe 3 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago. Point being, every time that we've had you on the show and every time that we've talked to you privately about this, again, ladies and gentlemen, we're speaking with Charles Ortel. I have been waiting for the smoking gun, the big bomb to drop, the phone call from you going, they're going down. The first part of my question that I'd like to ask you about is, do you see that coming soon? Because, clearly everybody, at least that I run around in a circle with, wants accountability on people regardless of what side of the aisle they sit on. But I think accountability to the American people, and quite frankly, the planet for the Clintons and what they've done would be a beautiful thing to see. The second thing that I wanted to have you touch on is, in your findings, has this fraud that has been committed by the Clintons of such epic proportion financially and so widespread that it could cause devastating damage globally if they were to be held accountable? Back to you, Charles.
All right. So as to the progress of the investigation and then the consequences, the progress of the investigation, last year it was not clear that Donald Trump would win. And I lost confidence. I had no reason to doubt James Comey and the FBI, but I lost complete confidence in the FBI under James Comey with his July 7th ridiculous statement.
Yeah, me too.
That, at that point I said, wait a minute, something is badly wrong. So at that point I stepped up my effort. I realized I couldn't rely on the FBI to get anything done before the election. And I stepped up my efforts with interviews and other publications to lay out, to give to the public details that should have forced people to realize just how crooked these people were, the Clintons, and their trustees and their professional advisors, the accountants, the the line accountants and lawyers involved in enabling and perpetuating this fraud. And I held my breath hoping that she would lose, because had Hillary Clinton won, we can be very sure of one thing. There would never have been an investigation, and there might not be an interview like this being
allowed,
being conducted, because we would be very busy, I don't know, counting.
You might be the next death by barbell.
No, we would be counting cockroaches in Guantanamo. But anyway, so the first step was to make sure, do what I could to expose the depth of this and get people to realize how crooked these people were. And then thanks to you, and also thanks to new friends on the left and the progressive radio network, Utrice Lee, Dottie Cherry, other people like that, Gary Null, had me on for hours and hours explaining this in the run-up to the campaign. Whether that had any impact, I don't know. But after Donald Trump won, we saw the immediate resistance. It wasn't like, let's give this guy a honeymoon. So literally 24 hours, recount, not legitimate, she won the popular vote, maybe he won't get the electoral vote, all this stuff. And he's still being opposed, not only by, retrograde Democrats, but by people, I would argue, like Mitch McConnell, McCain, and others, are still obstructing what really needs to get done. I think there's, across the world, frankly, people look at spending $6 trillion on government in the United States, and they see a swamp. It's an obvious swamp. It's a gigantic amount of money. The richest people in America in this millennium come out of K Street, come out of Washington, D.C. They come out of people who are juicing the system, and everybody understands that. So to get real investigations going, you've got to go against people who will get harmed and maybe hiding in the shadows. So the approach that was taken was to think about foreign governments and states, and as well find allies inside, the line people inside the Justice Department, inside, the investigative bodies, not just federal, and in Congress, in the Senate and in the House. And it takes time for these people to say, you know what, let's go for this. You saw the way in which, the Justice Department has been hamstrung. You saw, Sessions recuse himself. And we have to appreciate that the mainstream media, which fewer and fewer people listen to, but which, drowns the conversation, they're all in bed with the Clintons in the swamp. They love the swamp. So the investigations are progressing. They have to be done very carefully, so they are being done carefully. And I humbly suggest that, they will come to a culmination perhaps as soon as November 15th, 2017, that being the day when the Clinton Foundation has to submit the final deadline for 2016 results. And they have been hiding all kinds of things. During the campaign, for example, one quick thing, they hid the fact that late in 2013, to bring outside directors on, in my view, they changed the way in which the Clinton Foundation was governed into a two-class system, Class A and Class B. The Class A directors who were appointed for life were Hillary, Bill, and Chelsea. Hillary was, and they were given total control over the Clinton Foundation, even though legally that wasn't possible, because a public charity cannot give total control of its operations to a family for life. That just guts its tax status. They did that. They hid it from the regulators. They hid it from the public. That's a material fact. Had the public known that they had done that, I submit, she wouldn't have won the popular vote. She might not have won 100 electoral votes if she had been remained as a candidate. So they hid that for the American public. They're only now dribbling that news out in the key states where people would pounce on this information. And things like that and foreign investigations will all come to a fore, I think, once Congress gets back to work. So that's why has it taken so long. What was the second part of the question, Don?
Second part of the question was if they are held accountable, if this house of cards starts falling apart, what type of a splash in the pond is this going to create globally, financially?
No, it's the opposite of what you say. It'll be fantastic news, starting with the United States. Some of the people who have been benefiting from this and who should be held responsible, in my opinion, include the Gates Foundation, the Rockefeller Foundation, the Alphawood Foundation. There's a long list of private foundations with, when you count Gates and others, several $100 billion of money sitting in accounts that could be taxed, that could be used to pay down the national debt. And, I think there's no question corruption's endemic around the world. It's worse in some countries than others. In the looming financial panic, which is coming, people who have money left, and there's always some people have money left, will be searching for the safest place to put it. If the United States does the wrong thing, it becomes, the corruption capital of the world, we'll have Venezuela here. Money will rush out of here. If
but
on
the
the other
money's
hand,
rushing. Oh, I'm sorry. Finish that one. I wanted to ask you something else.
Yeah. If on the other hand, we stand up for doing the right thing, and Donald Trump correctly goes after not simply the Clintons, but also the Bush people and others in the Republican aisle who may have been involved in this mess, so that it's not simply partisan, and stands up and reforms what's going on in 1/7 of the U.S. economy, which is, some people think that public charities are 1/7, and we clean that up and get money. These monopolists who create foundations. I would argue Bill Gates is a monopolist. To a certain extent, Bloomberg is a monopolist. And people who are monopolists who want towards the end of their career to sort of change their spots or stripes in the public eye, and they create these foundations, donating appreciated property into the foundation. There is an argument that what they really should have done is sold their appreciated property, their shares, paid capital gains tax, and if they still want to give the money away to charity, give the net amount away to charity. So I think it's good news, actually, all around, if we finally go in and make sure that this particular multinational charities, multinational companies, are effectively regulated so that the rules of the game are known and played by. That will be wonderful news for the United States economy. And as to the rest of the world, the rest of the world, take Europe. In my realistic scenario, I see Europe breaking up. Europe breaks up. Where does all that capital go? Answer, back to the United States. So I think there's a window here, even in a crash of epic proportions. There's a window where we will do very well in this country. And I would cite 1987. In 1987, the crash, over the course of a several-day trading period, I think it went down almost a quarter. 25% the market went down, the Dow. And it ended the year flat. So you could have a crash, and then the reaction to the crash, lots of people will lose money, and then people will make money. But if we're moving towards, regulations that people trust and respect globally, then with our large internal market and the many resources and advantages that we have, I think we'll do very well in a crash. Thank you.
Yeah, but okay, let's follow the money trail as you're so good at with Charles. The IRS, still nothing, and they should have audited the Clinton Foundation, given the expanse of it, back starting in the late 1990s.
Well, so what we have found, the various people I'm working with have found, looking through the public record, we have found examples of what appear to be forged IRS documents.
Wow.
So the IRS, like any other government agency, probably has good people and bad people in it. I mean, you can see that when you just Google. So the IRS, for certain, needs to be investigated. It has fallen down markedly on this job. Think of the power that an IRS agent might have, married, let's say, to a partner in a law firm who is trying to do business before the IRS, if that person were crooked. And all the secrets they could have and hold over somebody's head. And then think about the fact that Lois Lerner is married to a partner in a prominent law firm with business before the IRS. And there are probably multiple couples like that. Yeah. The person running the IRS, John Koskinen, was nearly held in contempt.
Why is he still there? This is insane. How about Andrea Mitchell being married to Alan Greenspan when he was running the Fed? I mean, it's such an incestuous cesspool. It's not a swamp. It's a cesspool. We only have a couple of minutes left, Charles Ortel. And folks, you can find him at charlesortel.com. Find all of his stuff. You do a lot of work also with Jerome Corsi. He's just phenomenal, all the work that he's doing. But you follow the money trail. A lot of it has dried up since the Clinton Foundation, or since the Hillary Clinton lost, which has got to show you a lot. But the double standard here, where you've got, like you say, you've lost all faith in the FBI. I mean, Comey actually admitted under oath he withheld information so a special counsel would be appointed. And you're saying they have all this information. Nobody had more information than Barack Obama. So he's got dirt on everybody, and they know how to manipulate things accordingly. We only have like a minute and a half left, if you can just comment on that.
Sure. Well, the IRS has had in its files since 1997 far more information than I have. And I can tell with a small subset, I see the fraud. It's obvious. It's very obvious. You can cross-check what donors say they gave to the foundation, and then you look and see what the Clinton Foundation claims it got from these donors. And there are massive discrepancies, so it's obvious. On Obama, the thing that I find not hilarious, but, perplexing, is that I think the Clintons lied to the Obamas in the transition where she became Secretary of State concerning the status of the foundation. So what is mystifying to me is, why are there no emails complaining from the Obama team complaining about, you guys said everything was fine at the Clinton Foundation. This is a disaster. Why are there no emails explaining how the thing was, in quotes, reorganized? And more importantly, why did President Obama and Michelle generously give a fifth of their Nobel Peace Prize winnings, roughly, to the Clinton-Bush-Haiti fraud?
Okay, I have an idea. You know why? Because they're setting up their foundation the exact same way. And they know they can get away with it. And this is setting the bar so low. This is what everybody's doing. These are ways for them to have tax-free money. And we're talking billions now at this point, correct?
Nobody really knows, because you could set these things up around the world and, not report back into the U.S., game the system. And you're right. I mean, there's a Barack Obama Foundation. Many now around the world, many former leaders set up their own foundations.
Yeah. So, and they all complain that nobody pays enough taxes. Meanwhile, they have, their taxes offshore somewhere else. Charles Ortel, it goes by way too fast. And again, you can find him, folks, at charlesortel.com. You've seen him on all the major news channels talking about the financial dealings of the Clintons. Charles Ortel, again, folks, find him at charlesortel.com. We thank you so much for joining us here at Cowboy Logic Radio. And again, we will be keeping in touch with you to find out the latest on the investigation of the Clinton Foundation.
Anytime. Thank you.
And I think the best thing we can say in this case, given what Charles talks about, is nothing's certain but death and taxes. So if anything's going to bring them down, it might be the latter. And again, folks, thanks for joining us here on Cowboy Logic Radio. We will see you next week, same bat time, same bat channel. In the meantime, God bless America.
Cowboys didn't dance, didn't wear designer shirts. Their hearts were filled with memories, their bodies filled with hurt. They would sit around the campfire and exchange a piercing glance. Back when the West was really wild, cowboys didn't dance, yes. When cowboys didn't dance, didn't wear designer shirts. When their hearts were filled with memories, their bodies filled with hurt. They would sit around the campfire and exchange a piercing glance, yes. Back when the West was really wild, cowboys didn't dance.
Check us out on the web at cowboylogic.us.